Right, welcome everybody. It's good to see you all again. So we are almost done with the course. So it's not too late to get caught up. If you need any help, please reach out to me. This week, your only homework assignment is to do the beer game and to do the discussion forum. If you are behind on anything, this is a great time to get caught up. For the beer game, I know it's more fun if you do it with other people. So reach out to your classmates in your forum, the Ask the Class forum, and get a game going. It's a great way to get to know each other, to get connected, and hopefully stay connected after the course. All right, you're in for a great panel discussion. So I'm going to turn this over to Deanna.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us again. For those of you that are watching the recording, I'm sorry you couldn't make it with us. We have a new speaker with us for tonight, not the originally scheduled speaker. And I think she brought one or two friends with her that are, I think Ashley is here. Is Ashley here? Okay. So we'll maybe hear from them, maybe not see them all, but she brought some people with her, so it's pretty cool. So I met Kacie, and Sandra and I both met Kacie probably 2 months or so ago, maybe 3 months ago. She stepped in with another instructor. He brought her along to the conversation, and we were talking about personal branding and how to really, get your business out there and how to be the brand and a lot of other things like that. But that's not just Kacie's forte here. So I'll let you get into a little more of what you do, but I will say that one thing that she is very good at and that she, I think, does on a daily basis is work with people like you who are in your ideation phase, or maybe she's done it before, and really help you test your business idea and work those problem issues out to be successful. And I know she's worked with nonprofits in the past, or maybe still does at this point as well. So if you've got specific nonprofit questions, we don't usually have an expert on. So she might be able to also answer some of those questions, but she can answer really a lot on the span of entrepreneurship and business ownership, and not just the subject we're focusing on tonight. So as mentioned, as we get started, if you've got questions, raise your hand and ask it live. We love conversations, and she'll get you talking. She'll probably call you out, just like Elizabeth Weimer does sometimes, or put them in the chat because we want to hear from you. So continue to start putting your business in there for her so she can see who's on. She did have your profiles, but that's a lot of profiles to go through, and she wants to know from that who's on this class right now to really help. So I will stop talking and I will turn it over to Kacie. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Deanna. Thanks, Sandra. It's so good to be back. We had a lot of fun with this call, the last cohort. So it's great to meet all of you. And thanks for putting everything in the chat. I know Deanna had sent me the list, but there's a lot of you. Our cohorts at Mission Edge in San Diego are usually like maybe 10 people. We're about to start one that has 13, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is the biggest cohort ever. And then I come to these and there's like more than 20. I'm like, wow, there's so many to get to know. But I love that. Yeah, I see some of these are like small businesses. It looks like someone might have a nonprofit idea. So a little bit of everything. And that's great. So my background, I've really just done a lot of things, but I work at Mission Edge now. So I'm focused. My day-to-day life is focusing on serving people like you. So people that are either in transitions in their life or transitions in their careers, looking to start something new, who think, wow, wouldn't this be cool? Or wow, I have a fun idea, but I don't really know how to get started. So that's what I work on every day. And we've got a program similar to this where we work on capacity building. We help people raise money. And we help people ideate and problem solve. So no 2 days are the same. It's a really fun job. And I invited Abby and Ashley. I don't know if they're just on, but their cameras are not on. I haven't seen the participants, but I'm working with 2 women that are transitioning out of the Navy that are also looking to start their own business and also have a coffee shop idea. And they're hoping to start that in Maryland when they transition out of the West Coast and go move back east. Oh yeah. Hey, Ashley, want to say hi?
Hi, I'm Ashley. I'm interning with Kacie. Yeah, so Abby and we are planning to move back to Maryland. We're transitioning out of the Navy. So we're planning to move back to Maryland in like the fall time frame and open up a coffee shop bakery that gives proceeds to the local community charities and stuff. And it's been so great working with Kacie, learning all about like the social enterprise and nonprofits and how everything works. It's been awesome.
Cool. Thanks, Ashley. Yeah, so I think the last time I was on with you, Deanna, we were talking about branding, and then the conversation morphed into sales and being able to serve your customer. So I'm looking forward to, I know tonight we want to focus on adding value. Is that correct?
Yeah, adding value, delivering value. We talking about, how to determine the customer's needs, and a lot of that, and what that life cycle looks like. But as we do with all of our classes, we can go off on different trails as well. So, these are great times to ask the questions you want to ask. So although we focus on a topic because it's the topic we're talking about and working through this week, this is a catch-all night. So
Sure.
yeah, so maybe if we could just kind of, to spur off this conversation, Kacie, maybe you could just kind of talk a little bit to us about, what types of questions should we ask, to determine our customers' needs.
Yeah, gosh, I like this because customer validation really never stops. And sometimes people say, oh, customer validation, you really only have to do that in the beginning. But then once you kind of get your business going and you're earning revenue, like you don't really have to worry about that anymore. But that's not true, because your customer is always evolving. Their needs are always evolving. And the more ways that you can think of adding value, the more potential revenue you can earn, right? The more problems that you solve, the more ways you could potentially earn revenue for solving that problem. So I think it sounds like some of you all might be in the very early stages, but I would pose the question, have any of you guys had any interaction with a potential real customer yet? You can just give me like a show of hands. Maybe one of these. Okay, good. So I'm interested, like, how do you guys go about talking to potential customers? And how does it make you feel? Is it something that you enjoy? Is it something that you're like, oh God, I really don't want to know? Or where are you at with that? Feel free to unmute if anyone has any strong opinions about this. I see Jill says she's excited. Oh, who was that?
Let's hear from you. Unmute. Come on, Lakita. Let's hear from you. You've been talking to customers or potential customers.
All right. Thank you, Deanna. Appreciate that.
You're not a stranger to talking to people.
No. Actually, a lot of my experience comes from my own experience, and Deanna knows that my business idea was a nonprofit catering to family caregivers, and I've spoken to a lot of families. Some of the things that they need are just guidance in regard to dealing with their family member who might be compromised due to their health, and basically just some of the things are scarier than what I even had. My uncle had dementia and Alzheimer's, and they're dealing with the family members who are begging him for money, for a lot of legal assistance. And family caregivers are inundated with so much of the burden, so much of the financial burden of their own mental health and their own health, period. Lacks. So those are the people I end up speaking to, and it takes me back to that time when I was there in their shoes, and it gets to be a little overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm going to drop something in the chat for you just before I forget, and then I'm going to respond to what you just said. But we've worked with the company, we're still working with the company that's working on a caregiver support platform called Care Virtue. I'm just going to write this down, otherwise I'll forget. And it's kind of like a spin-off of My Brain Test. If you Google these and maybe just put like San Diego behind them, they might come up. But this man also, his family suffered from dementia. And so he saw the problem too of like, wow, wouldn't it be great if we had a way to organize all the caregivers, especially for families whose kids move away. and they're having to organize among siblings who's going to care for the parents. So just want you to have those. If you poke around on the internet and see anything you like, I'm happy to make an intro for you, Lakita. But thank you for saying that. So I heard you say it's a lot, it's overwhelming, and it takes you back to when you also experienced the problem yourself. So I'm interested, how many other people in the call right now are solving a problem that they themselves once had? Katery, Stephanie, anyone else? The reason I ask is because oftentimes when we get into customer validation, if we're not careful, if we're solving a problem that we ourselves have already had, we make assumptions about what we think our customer wants and needs, because we're like, well, of course they would want this because it's what I would want and it's what I wanted, right? And I think that that's a good place to get started, but I don't think it's a good place to stay. So oftentimes your own personal experience can spark a conversation and can even spark a question to ask your potential customer, because you think, oh, like, what was I experiencing when my parents were going through that, when I was having to care for them with my siblings? Oh, I wish I would have known this. And Deanna, to your original question, how do you even get started knowing what to ask potential customers? Starting with your own experience, if the problem that you seek to solve was once yours, is a great way to get started. When I say it's not a great place to stay, it's because oftentimes it's very comfortable for us to say, well, of course this is the experience because it was my experience. And we get comfortable in that because it's familiar, but then we forget to say, well, maybe someone else had an experience that was different than mine. That's something that I didn't even think of. And Lakita said, oh, sometimes they're telling me stories that are actually much more intense than what I anticipated. And so the reason why I encourage you to do that and keep doing that, or start doing that if you haven't yet, is because I always think the best potential customers are the ones who challenge you and tell you that your ideas, they don't necessarily tell you that your ideas are bad, but they push you to continue developing them. Anytime you get a potential customer that says, this is a great idea, I want this now, allow yourself to get excited for maybe like 5 seconds and then think, wait a second, that was too easy. And really try to push and get people that will push back and say, I don't know about this, or I hear what you're saying, but what I actually need is this, so that you can kind of poke and prod a little bit and not inflate your confidence too much at the beginning before you have made a transaction. Because the thing about finding product market fit with your customers is that you won't really know until you start making transactions from a real paying customer if the way you're going about solving a problem actually solves it in the way the customer wants it to be solved. Has anyone on this call, just by a show of hands, received $1 from a customer for any product or service yet? Henry, Katery. Okay, cool. Henry, can you tell me about that? You said you're in woodworking.
Yes, thank you again, Kacie. So I'm into woodworking, and this, my woodworking hobby just evolve into something that a lot of people start paying me for the work, and without much advertising or without much anything to say and broadcast it out there, and people start putting orders. So the things that is very important to me is to listen really to the customer and then find out what do they really want. My last order, which is just about a couple of weeks ago, I make custom made US flags, by the way. But I had a customer and I was asking, he says, well, can you make some shelves for me for my bathroom? And I says, okay, well, tell me. And then just like what you said, I have an idea in my head, but I let her define exactly what she needs from me. It says, okay, how big of a space, how many levels, what are you going to put in there? Just like you said, just let them define what is their need, and then understand that, and then repeat that to them to make sure the communication loop is complete.
Yeah, that's good. That's interesting, because what you're talking about is like you've almost already acquired the customer, and now you're making a repeat sale, because at this point she had already bought something from you. So that's great. That's a great problem to have. And I think if in the creative business, like yours, like you're in, Henry, because especially if the pieces are custom, creating something from scratch, they're not just picking a product off a shelf, but they're co-inventing it with you, with their vision and your vision. So it's almost like a different set of questions for that.
Yes.
Thanks for sharing that. Katri, you also raised your hand saying that you've earned at least $1 from a customer. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So my business, we've been in business for about 5 years. So we've had several customers over the years. We sell a simulated medication administration system for student nurses to learn how to safely administer medication in the hospital. So they can do it in the simulation lab. So we've had multiple customers buy just one system and several buy more than one system, and a couple people have come back to buy some more. So
congratulations, that's awesome.
Nice. Thank you.
That's really cool. So your customer then is the nursing school itself, is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
And the product is a physical product that you invented?
It is. Yes.
That's cool. So talking about product market fit, I love using repeat customers as a better success indicator than just making one sale, because while making one sale is important feedback, knowing that there is a customer for what you're trying to create, getting a repeat customer is even a bigger indicator that the way that you're solving the problem aligns with the way the customer needs that problem solved. So for anyone who hasn't yet made their first transaction, do you want to just kind of tell me a little bit like where you're at in the process, whether you're waiting on like developing your product or service, or your offering is already out there, but no one's bought it yet? Where does anyone want to volunteer where they're at with that?
Sure, I'll volunteer.
Sure.
Well, I've had to, speaking to potential customers, I've had to reevaluate my whole business, my whole thought process in regard to it. What I wanted to do was set up a center that they could bring family members, family caregivers could bring their loved ones to, and they can have like a pamper session, spa treatment. Some of the things that my issues were was getting out the house just to get hair done or get nails done, or just 2 hours for myself, take a class, take a yoga class, any sort of relaxation. I couldn't do it because I always had my family member there. But after speaking to several groups, I've got Facebook groups where I have family caregivers there, and they said getting their loved one out of the house to go to a care center would be more traumatic for them than going out by themselves, getting someone to stay there. And I thought, wow, I didn't have that problem with my uncle, the loved one I was caring for. So now I'm reevaluating the whole thing. I want to do more of a referral program in-house, to have services provided for them in-house. And I'm just still trying to work through that to see how that can work. I can still do a storefront in a more downsized way, but I think the whole complex that I had thought in my head that I wanted, I don't think that's going to work.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that, Lakita. This is a good, like, juicy response. Okay, I like this. There's a lot here. So thank you for sharing that. First, I love that Lakita said that she originally had a vision and idea for something that she wanted. And then as she talked to a customer, she realized that just because she wanted it herself doesn't necessarily mean the customer wanted it. So huge lesson in this. And I think you guys are all a little bit like farther along in your lives and your careers than I am. But I remember with my first venture, like I had this idea of like, okay, it's going to be like this. It's going to be great. Everyone's going to love it. And like, obviously I'm going to get customers and everything's just going to work out because my ideas are awesome. And why wouldn't this work out? Didn't even think that anyone would ever disagree with me. And then I was starting to like build up how my idea fit into my lifestyle and how like work was just going to be what I wanted it. And if I could have this store and everything would just be great. Without even realizing, yeah, just because I could go do this, maybe I had the time, maybe I had the capital to go create this thing, doesn't mean that I would be earning revenue from a real customer. That part just felt so secondary to me when I first got started that I just want to echo what you're saying, because Lakita, I wish I would have like known you 5 years ago, whenever that was. Because what you're saying is, oh, now I'm having to reevaluate that what I had in mind for myself, for my idea, what I thought would be useful, my customer is telling me maybe not. And the reason why it's so important to keep that in mind is because ultimately, like, your customers are the ones who keep your business alive, right? So even if your idea is so great and you love it and it's fulfilling to you, if no one's buying from you, it can be a hard thing to sustain. So the second thing that I want to kind of decipher in what you said, Lakita, is that you're discovering customer problems that might be different from the original customer problem that you thought you would set out to solve. Now, I think customer problems are definitely like an onion. So the more you poke and prod, the more layers you can peel back. But I would encourage you all, especially in like the caregiving world, think about your set of customer problems on a spectrum. So Lakita, you said that like your family member at that point, like, might not have been so traumatized by leaving the house because maybe whatever they were experiencing wasn't quite as intense or as past stage or like closer to the end as some other potential customers that you're talking to. So I don't want to encourage you to throw the baby out with the bathwater after a couple customer interviews thinking, oh, well, this wouldn't work for them, so clearly it couldn't work at all. Because I think what you start to learn from that process is, okay, here's a customer with a problem. It's similar to mine, but it might be a different level. Right. So like in the startup world where Mission Edge works right now, like Mission Edge, we provide this service where we're helping early stage entrepreneurs ideate and go through different series of customer validation processes. Now, there are other people that are providing services in the startup world in San Diego that are catered toward startup founders, entrepreneurs that are way later stage. So we're kind of operating in the same industry, but we're servicing them when they're kind of in their idea infancy, whereas other service providers are servicing them when they're much more mature. So you can start to think about, oh, it's almost like the customer has a whole life cycle. And the set of problems that I'm going to go after fit into this little section of that life cycle. And all these other people can play at these other stages of the life cycle. So when you guys think about your customers and you think about your customer problem, you're thinking, okay, this is a problem for them right now. Their problems could change later on, like caregiving, for example. When someone is first diagnosed with Alzheimer's, perhaps it's kind of like they're still functioning, like maybe they're still driving, or maybe it's before they get their keys taken away. I'm not sure. Where versus maybe like 4 years later, it's like, whoa, now they really, really need a lot of care. Well, think about that for any of the other problems that you guys are solving. Maybe when you first meet your customer, they kind of have one set of problems versus later in life, they're going to need more attention. Whether or not you as a business choose to service all of those, to solve all those problems, that's something that you can decide based on your growth, based on what you want for your company, how you want your company to fit the lifestyle that you're trying to have. Because oftentimes you guys may be equipped to solve more problems for your customers than just one. But just because you can doesn't mean you should, or doesn't mean you want to, right? Because I mean, that's the difference between having a small business and keeping it small versus saying, no, we really want to scale up. We want to start solving more problems and grow our customer base. Joni says, like, is this kind of like finding your target customer, finding your niche? I think yes, because, your target customer, I think if we continue with Lakita's example, it's that it's not just a caregiver. It's a caregiver that is caring for this type of person at this stage, right? Because the deeper you get into it, the more you see that depending on what stage that person is at, their set of problems is going to change. And Lakita's business may or may not be equipped to solve those problems.
So I was just discussing with Sandra that you guys, you don't even need me on here. Kacie can just facilitate this whole conversation by herself. No, you're amazing. So I really appreciate it. Yolanda has her hand raised. So I want to make sure that she asks a question, but she did message me. She is back at her ideation phase because she's had some major setbacks. So Yolanda, can you unmute and share a little bit about what's going on?
Yeah, thank you. I'm in a car, so I'm sorry. No, yeah, so hearing her talk about, the whole just kind of going back to the drawing board has been like kind of back where I'm at. I was going to initially go into the IT I guess to the industry and just based off what my knowledge, my part was going to be kind of create I don't know if you guys are familiar with DoD has this what is it called? Oh my god, I'm drawing a blank. It's a skills bridge. So a lot of the time now in the veteran community, they're creating ways for veterans to or they're about to be veterans, so they get 6 months of training so that they have somewhere to land their feet on once they transition out of the military. And that was going to be my place to kind of create a program for them to do that. And major setbacks, so I'm kind of back to my planning phase. And thank you for correcting me. I said idealization. So I was, I'm back to the drawing board. So this is great information, and I'm kind of glad that there's somewhere to kind of help put everything back into pieces, because I don't want to lose all the progress that I've made so far. I'm so sorry you guys can't see me. So anyways, yeah, how do we get back? So what would be the best suggestion to because with mine, I guess it would be a different industry. I would probably try to, I don't know, I just don't know what to do. I'm like, so
I don't think you just don't even know the right question to ask, right?
Wait,
So it's almost like where do you go from here? And I think that's a good question. So
can I, Yolanda, sorry, that was, thank you for sharing that, but can I just repeat back to you what I think you said, and you can tell me if I was wrong?
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry. I was not expecting for her to call me on. I was trying to direct message her, and so I was like, oh my God.
Yolanda, did you say that you wanted to do SkillBridge, you were in SkillBridge, or you were trying to create a program like SkillBridge?
So this is exactly what happened. So I actually started a business with a friend, kind of like my partner, and they already had their whole IT business going. And I said, hey, you know what we really need out there is a SkillBridge program, because they didn't know about it. And I said, I will create the platform because it has to be a viable program for veterans to try, utilize it. And so I was going to create that for them because I'm really good at that stuff. And it tanked. It tanked because I don't know. It's for many other reasons I won't get into, but that's pretty much what happened.
I think I'm picking up what you're throwing down now. Let me
try. Sorry.
That's okay. This is good. Okay. So, first of all, like, don't worry about, I heard you say it tanked. I have this like black and white thinking too, that if something like fails, it's called like a failure and it's indefinite and there's a period at the end of the sentence, but I'm trying to like think like ... not period. So I'll encourage you to do the same. Because just because it doesn't take off on the first try doesn't mean that that's your last at bat. So I'm saying that to you, but actually trying to take my own advice. Anyways, what do you do when something has the opposite outcome that you think it's going to have? So for you in particular, you thought that you could create this SkillBridge program so that veterans could go through this like IT program and learn about IT and be transitionary to their next career lily pad, whatever that might be. So I mean, I know at least with SAIL, like Mission Edge was in business for 4 years before we ever did our first accelerator. And it took a long time for our CEO, Ken, to build recognition in the San Diego community of like, who were we? What the heck is a social enterprise? And why should anyone like spend time with us? What do we know? Especially veterans, because like Ken even himself is a civilian. I've never spent any time in the military. I mean, this was before I joined Mission Edge. But what would attract someone who was transitioning out of the military to come work with us? And So 4 years in business, Ken was able to build more relationships and kind of get the word out of like, hey, do you know what a social enterprise is? Would you be interested in this? Like, do you think that this could be something that you would want to work on? And so his target initially had nothing to do with veterans. It's just that some of the nonprofit organizations that they were serving in the first 4 years of business were veteran related. And so what ended up happening was when they ran the first sale program, that's our accelerator, that's the name of it. We attracted all nonprofits to learn how to generate revenue as a social enterprise to lessen the dependency on grants and government funding. And it was okay. But in previous years, even then, like we've been in business for 8 years now, and it's sometimes hard to find applicants. So if you're thinking, oh, it tanked, no veterans wanted to come, like this didn't take off, or maybe you didn't get funding, whatever the problem was, I think that sometimes these things take time, they take multiple tries, and oftentimes, depending on where your community is at in terms of understanding like job creation, networking, like needing this, the model has been proven in other cities. It just might take saying it more than once in your community for them to really catch on to it. That's been our experience with all things social enterprise. Like at first the nonprofit community was like, what, social enterprise? You want us to earn revenue? When people were still talking about golf tournaments and galas. That was kind of like, whoa, like who are you people coming in here telling me to run my nonprofit like a business, but we're trying to do good. There was a major disconnection there. And so what does this mean for you all doing customer validation? Well, sometimes you have to educate your customer on why they should even want what you're telling them they should want. And that takes so much time. I mean, that's like a marketer's favorite problem. They say that it takes hearing something from 7 different people before an idea actually sticks. I would imagine, Yolanda, that's probably what was going on, is there's a lot more education and just getting the word out that needed to happen to kind of prime the audience to be ready for this. And actually, I wish Ken was here. He could tell you all this story, but I think they tried doing the accelerator program before 2017. It didn't work. They couldn't get funding for it. People had no idea what he was talking about. I didn't join the team until 2019, and by then they had done 2 cohorts. But even still, it was kind of like, are we going to do this? Do people want to fund it? I don't really know. Since I've joined, San Diego now has become kind of like the little sister city to the startup communities in the Bay Area and LA. So it's just by nature of being in California, it's more talked about, but it wasn't always like that at the beginning, for sure. So I would encourage you, like, if you're passionate about it, we have a SkillBridge. Ashley's here. She can talk to you about her experience and like what attracted her to it, but don't give up because the model's already been proven. It might just be that your community or your funders need a little bit more education about like what the actual change is that you're looking to have. I saw someone put something in the chat. Katri, did you have some?
Kateri, I actually put it in there. I said that sounds a lot like when you were talking about, sometimes you have to convince, your customer that they need what you're selling. And I feel like from what I remember, I thought that's a lot of what Kateri has an issue with. So would you mind just sharing a little bit about it? Because I think, I know you talked about a lot about selling a couple of months ago, but this group might, in this group might really be able to, benefit from that. Like, when you're talking about like determining what a customer needs, right? Well, what if they don't know they need it? How are you able to, kind of get them on board with what, I mean, obviously sometimes you realize they don't need it and it's really something that not many people need, right?
Yeah.
And it's really not needed and you're going to hit wall after wall. But, I feel like, especially with, all the background and education that Kateri has, trying to convince your customer that they need what you're selling, it's, she's got the education to back it up and the experience to back it up. So it's, what would your suggestions in that area be? I asked the question for you. You didn't even have to unmute. Look at that.
I love it. I love it. Gosh. Okay. So there's so much to this one, and it's a little bit of like sales too, but also like letting your customer kind of tell you. So, there's so much to talk about here. Let me just think about this for a second, where to start. How do you go about telling your customer that they actually have the problem that you're trying to solve for them if they're not seeing it? So marketers would be like, it's marketing, it's better sales copy. Gosh, marketers, love-hate relationship with that. So here's the deal. I think that this can be done in a way that isn't slimy and that isn't like over influency, because the problem that I have, and I don't know if anyone on this call is like living in an internet business world, but anyone who's ever done any type of promotion or subtle internet marketing on Instagram probably knows what I'm talking about. But there are definitely businesses out there that will advertise and push their messages and make customers think that they need what they're selling. So for example, if you've ever just been doom scrolling on Instagram, my latest ads lately were these two like foundations, like makeup things. And I'm just kind of like, okay, who's wearing makeup? Like, why am I seeing this ad right now? It's so weird. So I did a little experiment and I asked my followers, which I don't have a ton. I have like maybe, I don't know, 1,200 followers. I'm like, hey guys, I've been getting these ads for this makeup. Have you been getting it? And did you buy it? And within like 5 minutes, I think 30 people responded. I get both of those ads. Some people bought both of them. Some people bought one. Now, it's a pandemic. Most of us are not leaving our houses. Does anyone actually need new makeup right now? Probably not. Did they buy it? Yes. Why did they buy it? Because they had been advertised to time after time. Every time they open Instagram, they're seeing these ads thinking, oh, like it's not a bad deal, or it's affordable. Like I can get it, no big deal. So why am I telling you this? Not so that you can go start advertising on Instagram, but because sometimes, and this is honestly what I would say not to do, although depending on your business, it can be helpful and you can do it in a way that aligns with your values. But I think the lesson I learned from that is just by nature of hearing something repetitively, customers thought they needed it, so they bought it. Did they actually need it? Probably not. It's a nice to have. It's not like a do or die kind of thing right now. For you all, is there a way for you to get in front of your customer and solve a real problem without getting people to spend money on stuff that they don't actually need? Yes, there is. And I think that a lot of that comes with really probing to your customer, asking them, like I've seen some people when, if something is available online and somebody didn't buy it, you can automate emails saying like, hey, you left this in your cart. Is there a reason why you didn't buy? And you're asking people, why are they buying or why aren't they buying? And really asking that from a genuine place, truly just wanting to know what motivated them. Henry, for example, Henry had a customer that bought one thing and then was so like happy about it, I guess, and said, okay, this guy knows how to make stuff. Maybe he knows how to make shelves too. Thought to ask for that. Right. But Henry, from what I understand, that wasn't like a typical offering that you had, that she just kind of asked because she thought, who else would I ask? I don't know anybody who knows how to do this. Okay. So that's the kind of intel that you can start to really understand the way your customer is thinking, and the problems that they have that you might not know unless you think to ask or they're coming to you first. Someone just put something in the chat. I do want to say this out loud. How to determine if your business is geared toward profit or nonprofit. Oh, Terry, hold that thought. Let's talk about that. But then Joni said, the Instagram ads can cause one-time buyers, and if not satisfied, can damage the brand. I mean, I think the thing about ads is like, if people are happy and it's a way for you to earn more revenue, even if it's only a one-time buyer, depending on the nature of your product or service, like making a sale is making a sale. I think it's only damaging when people write negative reviews, because those definitely are like hard to get rid of. I do think, though, I admire businesses that are able to solve problems in a stickier way and not just getting people to buy like mindlessly. You know what I mean? Because like if it takes that much ad revenue to sell your product, again, like these makeup brands, like it's a nice to have. You know, if they were just waiting for everybody to have the problem, they might be waiting for a long time because not a lot of people are wearing makeup in a pandemic. So I tend to tell people, like, it's more compelling to solve a real problem than it is to put a bunch of ads in front of a potential customer and hope that they buy mindlessly. That doesn't align with the way I would run a business or just live my life, and it doesn't really align with my values. But I mean, those are lucrative businesses. So another thing too about this is, like, you can start to think about how selling to your customer, how solving that problem fits in with the way you like to treat people. Maybe this is an unpopular opinion in entrepreneurship, but do you want to be the business that has to depend on giving a bunch of ads to people who don't actually need what you're trying to solve? Because that's one way to do it, and there's nothing wrong with it. Or do you want to really, really get clear on a customer's real problem and only sell to the people who actually have the problem, not to people who are just passively scrolling and are bored on their couch at 10 p.m. at night? I don't know. Okay.
That's great. Thank you.
Deanna, we can address that question if you want. I know it's a little bit different from what we were just talking about, but
I think that's okay. Yeah, we can flip around. I want to make sure, you know, that we get these questions answered. So let's use this time.
Yeah.
For that, so.
How to determine if your business is geared toward a profit or nonprofit? Okay, so Ken would probably be like, "Oh God, Kacie, don't say it," but no, he would agree with me. Mission Edge is a nonprofit, but we always tell people don't start a nonprofit. Which sounds silly. Like, why would you not recommend that? Like, that's what you guys are. You're doing great. So I think that there's so many ways to have impactful outcomes, and it depends on what you as a founder want and how you plan to earn revenue. So part of the reason why Mission Edge became a nonprofit is because Ken knew at that time that he was going to be able to accept corporate sponsor dollars. And I can't speak for him. I just know little bits and pieces of this because, like I said, I joined in 2019. By then, they had been in business for almost 7 years. But I know that he chose to go the nonprofit route because, yes, he knew that he was going to be able to accept corporate sponsorship dollars, and he knew that to be able to service nonprofits really only trusted working with other nonprofits. So it just added so much more validity in our customers' perspective of us. So those were like the driving factors of why he chose to do that. Now, for anybody else on the call, if you are wanting to create social impact and if you're wanting to treat your customers well, you absolutely do not have to incorporate as a nonprofit. It is an old school way of thinking to think that the only businesses that do good are nonprofits. I would argue the opposite, actually. No, I wouldn't. That's too black and white. But I would add a different perspective, saying that a lot of times nonprofits get themselves into a pinch because they don't have enough money to sustain their mission. So they put a ceiling on their ability to create impact because they could go broke. We see so many nonprofits coming to us chasing grant dollars, just focused on grant cycles, not even having any attention or energy left to focus on their end beneficiary, whether it was youth, women, immigrants, veterans. And I'm like, how can you go service these people if you're chasing down this grant from the government? And they're understaffed, they're overworked, underpaid, everyone's exhausted. And like, you're just setting people up for failure before you even get started. But where we come in, teaching earned revenue, we say, don't sell your soul to the grant writing devil. Instead, learn how to earn revenue from a real customer. And that's why I started this call by asking you, how many of you guys have earned at least $1 from a real customer? Because that's when you really start to chip away at that product market fit iceberg. And that's a great indicator of, okay, this is working. And I don't think that, I definitely wouldn't incorporate it as a nonprofit, but that's just because I've seen all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes and like, it's just too much work. It's a path of less resistance to go the other route, in my opinion.
If I could just chime in for a second for Mark, I'm going to put a link in here to someone. you can let her know if you want to connect with her. Her name is Anna Rabe. She's a military spouse. Well, she's a veteran and a military spouse now. She's out of the military. She was in the Australian military and married to someone who was in the U.S. Army. And so I believe they're in Germany right now. I'd reach out to her on LinkedIn, direct message, let her know that I would preempt it. Let her know that Deanna Parker referred you to her. That will ping her to say, okay, you're in a program at IVMF or something. Give her a little bit of background there. She does sessions for us a lot, hasn't done anything recently, but talking about creating a social impact with your business. Because a lot of people, as Kacie is saying, realize that they think they have to be to have a social impact or to do something like that, they need to have a nonprofit. But you can still work like a nonprofit, but be for profit. There's nothing wrong with that. And still having a social impact. And then how should you structure your business in a way that does that? She's pretty much an expert in that. So reach out to her. If you don't hear anything, I'd give her a little bit. If you don't hear anything every week or two, do me a favor, Mark, and send me an email. And then I can connect you both directly via email. So if you ever want to go into that a little more.
Yeah.
You muted again. I'm sorry. Something's happening.
Oh.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Deanna. I got the link and I'll definitely follow up on that. And also, Kacie, thank you very much for one, with your reply, and secondly, coming at this late hour to do this meeting for us. So it's awesome stuff. My case is why I had a conflict was the type of business I'm trying to get launched. I've done a lot of freebie for years on consultation, missing and exploited children and people. And I analyze those cases, and I've helped a great deal of the police department and those sort of agencies, and also word of mouth, those who have reached out to me with a concern, and that's how I've been working. But it's gotten to the point that I think I'm ready to launch a business with this. So as I was putting this together, I was exploring the nonprofit versus for-profit, and weighing the pros and cons, and that's what spurred that question on. I agree with your assessment, and I'm leaning towards, as you indicated, that you can also do good things for people and still get paid. So I see where we're going with this, but I will follow up, Deanna. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and one more thing on that, and then Tim, let's talk about kayaks in a second, because I see that comment and I want to talk about that. But yeah, I think so. Another thing, when I talked about how Ken said, okay, Mission Edge is going to be a nonprofit because we'll immediately gain like validity in our customers' eyes. Knowing a little bit of like kind of the industry that you're playing in terms of, I think you said trafficking, you can start to think about like what is my customer's perception of me based on how I make my money. So I think that if you guys have ever bought from companies and you kind of like know where their money is coming from, some things can seem more honest than the others. Like if you've ever heard someone be like, well, don't buy that, that's a Ponzi scheme. That whole phrase came referring to a business model that was kind of shady, right? So I'm not saying that, being a for-profit business in certain industries could be seen as shady or not, but you just want to be able to, at the end of the day, communicate that the way you make money is not profiting or exploiting a problem, right? So that might be a gut check for you. And then that might also be something that you can validate with customers and partners. Would nonprofits be less inclined to work with Mission Edge if we weren't a nonprofit ourselves? 100% yes. And the reason is because our hourly rates would be significantly higher. They're not. Our hourly rates are below market rate because we're a nonprofit. So our profit margins are smaller. We still have profit margins, but they're not nearly as big as you would see in a for-profit company. And nonprofits are really skeptical of working with like big fancy consulting firms because nonprofits traditionally have this mentality of, well, we can't spend money on the back end business stuff. We just need any penny that we spend, it has to be on the end beneficiary. So Ken saw that coming from a mile away and was like, absolutely not. No, for us to play well in this space, we have to be a nonprofit ourselves. So I encourage you to think about your next steps with that lens. Think about how potential customers and how potential partners' perspective of you could change depending on which route you go. Okay, let's talk about kayaks. Tim, thank you so much for writing this. So my issue is that my kayak rental, the city of Charleston owns the drop-off ramp, and you need the drop-off ramp. You need access to that too, don't you, Tim?
Yes, I need access, and I need, I would like to use theirs. Also, I would like to use their lake, but they have Lake Charleston right there, and then the river after it. I also have a pickup point, which is in another county. So I'm assuming, I don't know if I have to contact the county to use that pickup point area. It's already there available, but there are a lot of questions that I have. But with the city of Charleston, that's the major issue. I could try to, there's a state park that's in the middle of all this. They also have a canoe rental and a pickup point in the state park itself, which I would use the pickup point, but I wouldn't use the drop off necessarily, I don't think. So I suppose I have to try to go through them. I have all these ideas, but it involves the city, state park, all these other entities that I have to get permission.
Right.
How do I partner with them?
Tim, you're trying to set up a physical kayak rental in some of these places. Is that correct?
Correct.
So yeah, that's interesting. I definitely feel your pain in terms of like sharing resources with city governments. We do that at Mission Edge, and it's the least favorite part of my job. Painful. But I definitely think that this model has already been proven. There are other cities in the United States that have private rental companies in a publicly accessed lake, right? Like I used to live in Austin, Texas, and I remember right in front of Lady Bird Lake, there were multiple rentals. Actually, even in the Bay in San Diego, there's multiple private rental places, but like everyone has access to the drop-in points. So I feel encouraged that like other cities are already doing this. So you're not inventing a new business model. It's just, you know, what red tape is unique to Charleston that you need to figure out. But I think so in this case, you know, you're talking about other like ecosystem players, right? So the city might not actually be your end customer. They're not the ones that are renting the kayak from you. But if they kind of hold the key to the space that you need, then I would encourage you, like in these types of cases, it's better to make friends than enemies. And anytime you can offer mutual benefit, the better. So for example, if you need something from someone, starting to think about your pitch in terms of what am I bringing to the table, or what do they stand to gain from me? It makes you a more attractive partner. So if the city is saying that, gosh, I don't know, maybe the city of Charleston is trying to push better mental health and encourage people to get outside after the pandemic, then you can say, hey, city, I know that you guys have this whole like mental health, public health thing that you're working on. If you let me set up my kayak station here and help me have access to this, I can guarantee that we'll get people out of their houses and into the great outdoors. I mean, that's just kind of, I don't know, that might be a far-fetched example, but you're starting to think about how you can talk to people that like really hold the key to things that you need, but also like giving them something in return that helps them match whatever goal they're going after.
Yeah, I can see that too, because they're also in between. There is a big movement. It's called the Friends of the Prairie Conservation Group that has been buying hundreds and thousands of acres between the city and the state park. 50 acres in between all of that. And I have the facilities already for the kayaks and everything ready to go. But So it's working out kind of like I just kind of fell into this.
Mhm.
Why I came up with this idea, but now I have to try to partner, not necessarily partner, but like
Yeah.
you come up with the idea that this.
Right. Well, you want to be like a good team player, right? Because like at the end of the day, you're sharing resources. And I found at Mission Edge that if we are fun to work with and we're nice people, people will do us favors. Like that might be like a very like self-involved way of saying like be nice because people will give you stuff later, which I don't think is the main message. But I think, you know, when you're thinking about building your business and needing to depend on people, having them know that you're a dependable business person, that you're nice, that you're a community builder, that you see things through the lens of mutual benefit, makes it encourages people to want to work with you. So I know, because Tim, you had written like, oh, I don't want to partner with them. Maybe just think, well, maybe you get more bees with honey. I don't know. Like, I know, Joni, I hate that word. I did not want to say likability. I so hate that word. I hate it. But sometimes it's being a good team player, right? I mean, San Diego, we're such a small city compared to LA and the Bay Area, but like everyone knows everyone. So if you're kind of like weird with someone, like they could go tell 10 people, and before you know it, the whole market is like, oh, don't work with them. They're weird or they're not fun to work with. So you have to be careful with that, especially on businesses that are built on referrals. Whew, yeah, definitely get more bees with honey for sure.
Tim, I accidentally muted you. I'm sorry. You'll have to unmute yourself again. I apologize. I hit the wrong button and I unmuted you instead of unmuting myself.
Oh, I saw that. I'm like, what happened?
I'm so sorry. But another thing you might want to think about, just because I'm a big kayaker, I do whitewater rafting, things like that. There's an organization called Team River Runner. I will put the link in the chat here in a second. Team River Runner is a veteran organization, and what they do is their goal is to put veterans with they started as veterans that shouldn't be in kayaks, right?
Yeah.
Like people you wouldn't think, blind veterans, veterans without arms, veterans without like people that shouldn't, like that I don't say shouldn't, right? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that when you think about someone kayaking, you don't think of a blind person kayaking, right?
Yeah.
And they're a group of veterans. So there are 3 different chapters in Illinois. Is this what we're talking about here?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's Decatur, there's Chicago, and there's Southern Illinois. So I'll put the link here, and then all you have to do is scroll down to Illinois, and then you can click on each different one. There should be context there. So my suggestion to you would be, they've already made friends with, you know, a lot of the cities and counties in the areas in order to, because they'll either they bring their kayaks or they rent kayaks from somewhere, and then they get the veterans in the seats and teach them how to do it and teach them how to do all different things. And they do it in pools, they do it in rivers, they do it in lakes. So I would just suggest maybe befriending them or reaching out to them to see, you know, even their avenue. It might not be anything, but it could turn into something. So yeah.
Yeah.
And it could also be a good way to create a social impact too. If that's something that ends up being it, you could, you know, donate a couple of not completely give them away, but, you know, provide a session where you're donating the kayaks for that 1 hour session for them to learn in and things like that. So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, that's
know
awesome.
what Team River Runner is. Take a look at it. They're pretty cool.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Also, Tim and John, I love that you guys are like the outdoors guys. Are you guys in the same area? Because you guys are trying to do similar things, aren't you?
Well, it's interesting because John got back to me. He said he lived close to Charleston for 4 years.
Well, I assumed you were talking Charleston, South Carolina, but I'm not. I may be
No,
wrong.
Charleston, Illinois.
No, I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So sorry.
Okay. Yeah, my son was just there for his COVID shot.
But I will tell you this real quick. So what I did with the city council here, they have a boat, or they have a kayak canoe launch, and it's handicap accessible, and it's everybody can use it, but they hate maintaining it. And it's a mile from my house. So I told them, hey, I'll help maintain it. So we're trying to work on an agreement where You know,
Oh,
I'll
wow.
maintain the thing for you, and you know, everybody's on a tight budget, and you just let me use it and let me park my kayaks there.
What a
from time
great
to time.
idea.
So,
Wow,
Wow.
I like that. That's a good idea.
now,
Let's
I don't know
see.
how big your city is, but
Said at
That's
21,000.
yeah, okay, so we're similar.
John,
Yeah.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that, because that's a great example of how to provide mutual benefit. So looking for a problem that they have and saying, here's how I can solve it. And then seeing, okay, like, now what can I get out of this too? Not in like a self-serving way, but of kind of like, I'll solve your problem. Now you help me solve mine.
Yeah.
That's a great way to build a partnership. So well done. Great example.
Okay, cool. Good ideas. Thanks.
Awesome. Cool, cool. That's awesome. We've got about 10 minutes left. So I want to make sure we're using our time wisely and don't want to leave anyone in the lurch if you have a question. Ashley, I'd actually kind of like to hear a little bit from you, if you wouldn't mind. Do you mind, Kacie?
Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned you're doing this, you know, could you talk a little, actually, what I'd like you to talk a little bit more about your business, because I know Stephanie, I believe, is trying to do something similar. And it, you know, may spur on some ideas or some conversation here.
Okay, so our business idea is still in the idea stage. Abby and I are still in San Diego. We both won't be moving out until the fall. So we've just been doing a ton of research, trying to find exactly where we want it. And we think that we've established that we want it in Olney, Maryland, based on our idea of what our customer would be. Because we want to create a like little community place where everybody could come and hang out post-COVID, of course. So it's kind of like put a big ringer in our whole plan, but hopefully it all works out. So we just want a little safe place that people could come hang out, like do community activities where all of the profits go back to the community itself and only. Whether that just be like the little grandma's knitting club or the little baseball team that needs t-shirts. Like, we just want to do little things here and there that eventually add up to something bigger. But then did you want to hear about the skill bridge or?
Yeah, were you doing, or did I have it wrong? Was it coffee? Is that something, was that in there too? So it's like a coffee shop that's going to be doing a lot of that? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a coffee shop bakery that allows for people to come get together and like have a safe place, because in Olney there's no real like hangout spot. I have a couple of friends that live there and they don't have anywhere to go to hang out with their other friends. There's a Starbucks and a Dunkin' there. I'm a coffee fiend and Abby's a baker. So the coffee shop bakery is just exactly perfect for our personalities, and we're just hoping it all works out. But again, we're still in the idea stage and planning.
That's great. Yeah, maybe why don't you share a little bit about SkillBridge too? That might be good.
Okay, yeah. So SkillBridge, there's a ton of different transition programs now for military members. Like over the past, I don't know, it's probably only been like 5 years. It's been a huge push to get military members a transition program to help them change their lives from the strict like military, you're doing this at 8 a.m., this at 9 a.m., you're wearing this every single day, to understanding how it is on the civilian side. So I also did this one called 4Block, which Ken Davenport was the host of for me back in September. And that one like gets you introduced to like tons of different corporations and different companies. They were focused in San Diego. And it gives you one-on-one time with them to talk to them, like ask them questions about their culture, like their daily lives, everything that you want to ask them. And then SkillBridge is, I'm still attached to my command, like my place of duty for the Navy, but I have separate orders that allow me to go to Mission Edge every day instead of my military base command. So I'm still in the Navy, but I don't wear my uniform every day. I get to wear civilian clothes and learn like what Kacie does every day. And it's been a lot of fun and very eye-opening. Like completely different from my day-to-day activities in the military. And that's a wonderful introduction. With SkillBridge, there's all kinds of different companies that you can go with as long as they have met the requirements, which I'm not really sure how they do that, but there's a list on that. If you click that link that somebody put into the chat over there, there's a ton that are listed under there that you're just like an intern, like a college intern. You go hang out with this company and just learn and soak up as much knowledge as you possibly can.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. Maryland is actually a pretty strong represented veteran state. So it's in like 2019, it was like number 17 populated states, but it's gone up a little bit even now. But then you also think about the surrounding states. I mean, you've got DC not far, Virginia, anything in SBA Region 4 or near that, that's where the majority of veterans are. So if you're actually looking on where to start your business and you're willing to move and you want to serve a veteran or a veteran community, or you want a good veteran or veteran business network, SBA Region 4 is a pretty good region to go in. And you can just Google SBA Region 4 and see the states, but it's basically like Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Tennessee, those ones. And then obviously Texas is a big state too. I just figured I'd share that. So Maryland's not bad. Actually, I think we're like number 4 for our top graduates residing in Maryland right now. So it's like a lot of our graduates are from Maryland. There's a good network there. And yeah, get in, check out what kind of veteran business network you have in that state. That's something you want to look at too, because as far as I'm concerned, veterans like to help other veterans. That's why I'm in this job. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and I'm in this job to help other veterans. So that's what I love to do. And I know a lot of veterans love to serve. So, get connected. And that's for everybody. Get connected with other veteran-owned businesses in your area. And even just like this, John's business is, things that he's done is helping Tim even right now. Yeah. High cost area to live in. That's true. That's true. But do we have any other questions? We got 3 minutes left. All right. Well, Kacie, why don't you close us out? Do you have any other final things, or maybe a book you've read recently, or a challenge or article or video, something to watch, something like that? I know I didn't ask you that ahead of time, but.
That's okay. No, I think I'm reading way too many books right now. It's hard for me to finish anything. I start a lot and just pick them up. It's like Russian roulette. What will I read today? I don't know. I think that probably something that is more compelling for me to share to close this call is that who was the person that said it flopped? That was you, Yolanda, right? Okay. So I recently I'm coming off of a bit of a failure myself, and luckily I've got Ken to kind of peel me off the floor when things get just shitty. But because at Mission Edge, on the Impact Lab side of things where I work, we're all tinkering outside of our day jobs. And so I do that a lot too. And I obviously am talking about customer validation. And I just want you guys to know, this was the second thing that I tried doing. And it was an online course. And I thought, I did some customer validation and I thought I knew what my customer needed. And I made this course and I went to sell it and no one bought it. And that happened on February 1st. It happened the first week of February. And it really wrecked me. This whole month has just really wrecked me. But the first 2 weeks, there's no way I could have been on this call had you texted me 2 weeks prior, Deanna. So I guess I just want to tell you guys, don't be like me and don't expect to hit a home run on your first at bat. I think that I had an overinflated opinion about my ability, which have totally been humbled since, which is great. I'm glad that happened earlier in life than later. But, I went into this thinking all right, I've been at Mission Edge for 2 years. I work with entrepreneurs every day. I know how to do customer validation and I know how to monetize my knowledge because I'm a consultant. So I can do this. Online courses aren't that hard. It'll be fine. And what ended up happening was, you know, I totally like sold my soul and was working full-time at Mission Edge, and then like just too many evenings and weekends on my side thing, and ended up having no energy, no life. And just, it was a sad winter around here. And that's even in San Diego. So there's nothing to complain about. It's just that I made it be the perfect storm by overworking. So if there's anything that I could say to you all about just managing your time, managing your passion, doing what you love, and trying to move through the ideation phase and service your customers and maybe earn a living from your business without totally going crazy. It's that like these little failures, or Yolanda said flops, it's not a period at the end of the sentence, it's a ... And like, I'll pick it up again. I'll talk to my customers. I'll learn more about what they need. They didn't buy what I first put out. So now I know that there are a few things I can change it, because I thought I was solving the problem in the way that my customer wanted it solved, and I was wrong. So now I'm going to go back to the drawing board. I'm going to make some changes, and I'm going to try again as soon as I can like gas myself up a little bit and get my ego back. But yeah, just be gentle with yourselves. You know, we live in a space where entrepreneurship is like this like cool, trendy thing. And that if you're not figuring out how to make money on your own, or if you're not starting your own thing, then you're not cool. Or if you're still working for somebody else, like that's lame. And maybe with young people, not that you all aren't young, sorry, I didn't mean it to come out like that. Maybe with people who are earlier in their 20s, we're a little bit more like contaminated by this subculture because we just live on Instagram. And it's so wrong, you know. And actually, if you guys aren't friends with Ken yet, I'll drop his, or Ashley, can you drop his name in the chat so they can add him on LinkedIn? He just posted about this on LinkedIn today, that you know, you don't have to be the next tech unicorn. You don't have to be Jeff Bezos. You don't have to be Elon Musk. We read all these stories about these big fancy people and their big fancy customers, and or their big fancy, you know, VC funding and all that stuff. But like, that's not the only way to create change in this world. You know, like you can create change just like Henry did. Henry built something for someone that she loved, and she came back for more. That's compelling. That's real impact. That's solving a customer problem. And that might not be what you read about in Forbes. That might not be what you know, read about all the kids saying they want to grow up to be like Elon Musk one day. You know, maybe you won't fly to space and do woodworking in space, Henry, but everything that you're working on still matters, and it's still compelling. And maybe you don't get it right on the first try every time, but at the end of the day, there's still someone who needs what you're creating, and that matters. So there's my soapbox. Thank you guys for your time tonight. Keep trying. I'm really happy to have had this experience, Deanna, and please don't be a stranger. If you guys ever need anything, like Mission Edge will be your friend.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And just to encourage everyone, you know, it happens to our graduates too. I mean, we have people who start businesses and fail and have to restart businesses and fail. That's why we started another program called Pivot. They have to pivot their business that they're currently going on, and because there's different actionable steps. Like, I feel like if you haven't failed, like once you fail, you're an entrepreneur. Yolanda, you're an entrepreneur now. You're really an entrepreneur. Boom, nah, just kidding. But seriously though, I mean, and we had, you know, it's all about grit. It really is. It's about grit. It's about, you know, like we say, like flop, flip, right? You flop, and then you flip it around and turn it around and do something else, right? So instead of flip flop, it's flop flip. But at EBV Traditional, we have a fail up day. So our residency program where we bring in different veterans who failed miserably, but learned and came over those obstacles. Some of them failed and decided, you know what, I learned entrepreneurship isn't for me. And I need, because sometimes you just, you know, you're so stubborn that maybe it's not for you. Obviously, we want to encourage you to continue it, but always keep that in your mind too as you're working through your ideas, and maybe there's other opportunities and doors that will open because of that. So I appreciate you sharing, Kacie. Ashley, thank you so much for being here as well. Kacie, I'm going to follow up with you separately because I think I have some other opportunities for you. And so I think good opportunities, right? I think with what you shared as well. I mean, you have value. So you know your value, and I know your value now. I probably don't know your complete value, but know your value, and you know, because it could produce in, you know, look at Sandra, right? And I'll finish. You guys can go off if you don't want to hear me keep talking, but Sandra started as a business of taking EBV. And now she teaches, right? She has her own business that's doing very well, and has been for years, and has come to growth conferences and is scaling, right? And now she teaches our programs. She probably never thought she would be doing that years ago. And now she does that. And so it's pretty awesome. So just, one of you, who knows, Lakita, maybe you'll be coming back and teaching a class in 5 years. We don't know, right? So just keep plugging away and keep working at it. Thank you so much, Kacie. Again, thank you, Ashley. Thank you all for being here tonight and for the last minute change. Next week will be on Wednesday from 6 to 7:15. We'll be talking about access to capital, and financing your business, right? The thing that everybody always wants to know, money, money, money. So we'll talk about that next week. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week. Thanks
Great.
again.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Deanna. Bye.